I think probably most of you will recognize in this morning's sermon title, a reference to Winnie the Pooh and the Beloved Woods, the 100-acre woods to be exact, with the preferred spelling A-K-E-R. Not a typo, just saying, not today. And of course this, you will have guessed, is a sermon about trees. Why trees? So many reasons. First, because trees rock. They have a place of honor in our lives and also in the annals of faith, from Eden's tree of life to the oaks of Mamre that shaded Abraham to the mammoth cedars of Lebanon that once covered the biblical lands of the Middle East, to the fig and the mustard trees of the parables of Jesus. It's always a good time to talk about trees and their biblical roots, if you will. Second, trees are, of course, the subject of the inspiring goals of Forests for Indy and the specific project in the dogwood forest Jeff just outlined, and some of the others as well. Third, we're piggybacking, as I said, on that great idea of Jewish faith, its annual festival called Tu B'Shvat, or Jewish New Year of the Trees. And then fourth, you and I have invested much in trees here, as we shared with the children, from the kibbe plantings and the really dozens of varieties of trees on our campus, as well as all those given in memorial, and then the absolutely brilliant journey tree. So yes, trees are our thing here at Cumberland. But fifth and finally, a Sabbath celebration of trees makes sense in a time of daily upheaval of the political sort, related to the pace and the reach of abrupt change in American life, proposed, implemented, perhaps challenged. As the days before us unfold, trees, patient, wise, non-anxious, venerable, remind us not to despair in any given moment of our lives or of time, however bleak or unnerving. In times of upheaval, trees remind us that even amid a forest of worry, there are woodlands of peace and calm and solidarity to be had, to be shared. We are not alone. We learn this from trees through their hidden but vast interconnectedness, their deep-rooted vasculature, their network of fungi by which they communicate and support one another. And this is all the more the case in a forest of trees. And here's a lesson for us from trees. The community is like a forest, a point brought home very well by Winnie the Pooh himself, who says, you can't stay in your corner of the forest waiting for others to come to you. You have to go to them sometimes. This past Tuesday, I was down at the State House, as I am every year at this time, for Renewable Energy Day. I was with one of my own forests of community. I was with a lot of climate people who believe passionately, like I do, that of everything going on these days, combating climate change by rapidly cutting CO2 emissions and deploying renewable sources of energy is the single most important thing we can do for both God's creation and our fellow human beings, especially those in the paths of hurricanes, flooding, wildfires, inland drought, dangerously high heat, and all the known outcomes of global warming, which we are already experiencing. I was down there giving the opening address of the day from a faith perspective, and I decided to speak, of all things, about Jeremiah. Jeremiah the prophet, who finds himself confined in the court of the guard, that was in the palace of the king of Judah, so he's imprisoned sort of there, even as Judah itself is under siege from its enemies. Jeremiah is sort of in a prison within a prison, and who should arguably do nothing but despair. What hope is there for him? But instead, he buys a field. He buys a field in a Levitical city named Anathoth. He buys a field. He signs the deed, seals it, gets witnesses, hands it off to his scribe. He's stuck there. The scribe takes it, transacts it. He says, take it, place it in an earthenware jar. Why? So that it'll last. Because, as Jeremiah proclaims, houses and fields and vineyards will again be bought in this land. And my point to my fellow climate people was that hope lies in our investment in worthy things, things of goodness and beauty and virtue and purpose, because through such investment our best future does come into being. And today, one of those fields is a simple belief, an investment in the power of trees and forests to guide us and ground us in hope. You will have your own fields of concern. I won't speak for you, but I know what some of them are that people I love have. Perhaps they're looking after vulnerable immigrants who will be one of your fields of concern. People we know and care about, people that we know from here, that we have been worried about as possibly at risk, who are now at risk. Perhaps it'll be looking out for transgendered persons, some of whom we also know here, having their identity erased by political statements and perhaps policy. Or perhaps your concern will be for veterans at risk of cuts to services, or people who rely on Medicaid at risk of their coverage being compromised. But apart from those fields of concern are the fields of blessing that we all need. Where even to begin? Well, you heard the biblical festival of trees that we read up here, scriptures that represent really merely just a thicket of the vast forest of scriptural text themed around trees. Did you know that trees are mentioned in the Bible more than any other living thing except God and humans? Trees is number 3. I did a cursory inventory of trees, types of trees cited in the Hebrew scriptures alone, and I shared it online, but here's what I found. Oak, olive, fig, cedar, willow, balsam, juniper, poplar, almond, acacia, cypress, box tree, fir, and almug. That last one, almug, probably red sandalwood and mentioned in 2 Chronicles, used with cedar and pine in the pillars of the Temple of Solomon. That one was new to me. How about you? And all of those in arid, semi-arid climates. But trees in the biblical vision are more than just names. They're more than just utilitarian things. In the Bible, trees are expressive of many things, especially God's interest in the well-being of creation itself, not of human beings only, but of all things, so that when tyrant kings of Israel and nations fall, the trees themselves rejoice, as Everett shared, for they had been exploited right along with the people. Here again, what Everett shared. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of rulers that struck down the peoples in wrath with unceasing blows, that ruled the nations in anger with unrelenting persecution. The whole earth is at rest and quiet now that they're gone, right? They break forth into singing. The cypresses exult over you, the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were laid low, no one comes to cut us down. It's in the Bible, folks. And we may think, well, How poetic of the biblical writers, but this is more than poetry. This is biology. This is social theory. The first lesson here is that as goes humanity, so goes the earth, and vice versa. As go the trees, so go we. And that's only the beginning, because we must ask why. Why does the Bible make news of a tree singing? Well, again, because they're not just trees. These are living networks, not only of communication, but sustenance. On the deepest molecular level, forests share energy, nutrients, knowledge, in ways that do not comport with any kind of a shallow Darwinian notion of survival of the fittest. No, it's not like that with trees. Forests, like the 4,000, still trying to thrive here in Marion County, are communities rooted in give and take, in cooperation, in sacrifice, in blessing. Elder trees nurture younger trees. When an elder tree's life is waning, it diverts its energy and that underground structure to those younger trees. And this happens across species because they're all connected, regardless of tribe. According to forest ecologists like Suzanne Simard, trees in high-functioning forests are wired together with a sophistication mirroring the human brain. Indeed, we know now that a forest resembles a single living organism. Forest trees truly are a window into the nature of all flourishing life, all flourishing ecosystems, ecosystems that Aboriginal science, ancient science was based upon, and modern science and society is just catching up to. But such talk of trees is often lost on us. I drive around the east side, as I'm sure you do. I drive around and I look around and I wonder where all the trees have gone. Just between my house downtown in Woodruff Place and out here, where have all the trees gone? I ask myself. Do you wonder that? Do you wonder if there's a better way to do a city? What would our faith teach us about such things? What would Jesus teach us? What would Jesus teach us, who lived and walked with eyes and ears and mind and heart tuned to the rhythms of nature? You can't read the parables without learning something about nature. Whose parables borrowed primary grist from the earth about his feet, where he walked. Which brings me back to the subject of dogwood forest, east side flatwoods, and adjacent or non-adjacent acres to be preserved. One of them alongside, Hawthorne Elementary. This forest is a remnant of the old-growth flatwood forest, as Jeff said, that once covered central Indiana. If this forest is not preserved, it will follow the fates of so many others, and our fates as well, as we drive about, cast about, dispirited by empty, spalling concrete and parking lots, bereft of both soul and, strangely enough, bereft of cars. I don't see a lot of cars in a lot of parking lots. But not only that, to latch onto this sort of hopeful project may just be one strategy for safeguarding our sanity in these uncertain days. To anchor, to ground ourselves in the miracle and the majesty of trees. Maybe the lessons of the tree canopy and the root fungi could help bring us back to our better selves and the happy truth of us, that you and I are not alone, that we are the family of God. We're the communion of saints. We're God's beloved, all. And that like a forest of trees, we were made to belong to God, to the earth, and to one another. Amen.